Well, they finally did it. After tackling a bunch of other home computers, our beloved rubber-keyed legend is finally getting a modern emulated facelift. It doesn't come out till November, but just for your eyes only, I have an exclusive mock-up of what you can expect come November. Well, those decision makers at Retro Ltd rightly went for the rubber-keyed Spectrum because it's obviously the most iconic and the one that everyone of a certain age remembers. But playing this new HDMI compatible offering on your big telly, you're not going to want to do anything on the keyboard, even as a second player option, because A, you'll want to chill on your sofa, and B, it's just going to be horrible as it was back in the day. When you get your Retro Spectrum thing, it comes with 48 games already loaded. Some of these are best described as fillers, some admittedly I've never even played, and some are just downright classics that would have been more of a shock if they weren't included. Other YouTubers have done their videos on games to stick on the Retro Spectro, as one of the new features of this new device is that you can add your own games. So I had a bit of FOMO. So here are 10 games. Yes, just 10, quality over quantity. I mean, you could bugger off to some torrent site and download 2,000 Spectrum games, half of which would be wank and the other half you won't be able to play. Mum, I think my Retro Spectro's broken. No, I don't know why I call it that either. So I want you to choose wisely. Get most out of your experience with the Retro Spectro, and 10 is my magic number. So these 10 games must give you a wide varied slice of gaming life on the Spectrum. So out of the 10, you've got to have one of each of the following. And in no way am I reading this from a list behind the camera, honest. A puzzle game, an arcade conversion, a platformer, a two-player game, sports game, tactical combat RPG type thing, a space flying sci-fi game, yeah I know, but just stick with me. A racing game, sort of, again we'll come back to that. A shoot 'em up, cover tape exclusive game, because there were always periods in all of our Spectrum playing lives where the only new games we got were on cover tapes exclusive to magazines.
You poor bastard.
Now, I've not bothered with text adventures as you do get The Hobbit already included, and quite frankly, what more would you want? All these games have got to follow 3 primary rules. Yes, I know, I'm almost done. Number 1, they've all got to be playable on a joystick. I might have already mentioned this, but I want you to sit back on your sofa and enjoy these. No having to do certain keys on the keyboard. So games like, I don't know, Chaos or Rebel Star, those are out. Joystick only. Number 2, they've all got to be pick up and playable. I don't want you to get bored of these in the first 2 minutes and then move on to something else. And number 3, they've got to be available for download, right? It's pretty important. I use one of the big Spectrum related websites. I'll put a link down in the description if you're not sure. And on there they have an archive of games that have not been copyright claimed that you can still download directly from the site. Okay, is that all clear? Good. I mean, if not, maybe go and have a nap for 10 minutes and then come back, watch the first part of the video again, and then we can crack on.
Have a good sleep.
Number 1, best role-playing combat strategy board game type thing. Yeah, you know the type of game I mean. So for all you Julian Gollop fans, I've got something for you, and this one is a corker. Originally released in 1988 by Target Games, Laser Squad is a perfect addition due to its simple control method that you will get the hang of fairly quickly. The game can be played by 2 players or 1 versus the Specky, more on that in a moment. And out of the box it came with 3 different scenarios for you to master, with more in an expansion. We will take a quick look at the first of these in the Assassin's scenario, where you must sneak into the mad scientist's house and eliminate him before him and his droids eliminate you. A few weapons to choose from, an armory for your 5 soldiers, and away you go. With the game being controlled via a number of nicely laid out menus that can look pretty daunting to begin with, but are actually fairly straightforward. Worth downloading the manual with this one though if you want a better experience, which goes into more detail on some of the options available. With 2 players, one player takes on the bad guy role in a look away from the TV when it's not your turn experience. If you're fortunate enough to actually have friends, I imagine this is brilliant fun trying to assassinate the bad fella or take out all the assassins. Magazine reviews all scored over 89% for the big 3, but I thought I'd pull the computer and video games review out, which, although generic across platforms, gave a whopping 97% score, remarking,
"Aside from the rather naff packaging, Laser Squad is one of the best games I've ever played on any computer. It's a 1 or 2 player tactical warfare situation on a small scale with great graphics, sound, playability, and hookability to boot. 1 player, it's great. 2 player, it's unbeatable."
Number 2. Best arcade conversion. Now, I could have picked a handful of games here, but I went for the first of 4, yes 4, Joffa Smith games to make my list. Ocean Software's under the Imagine label's port of the Konami weirdness that was Mikie. In what in his words was the trickiest of games he had to code, Mikie was ported to the Spectrum from a quite bizarre arcade game that involved going around the school collecting hearts in order to get a love letter to your girlfriend in the final of 5 screens split between the school corridors. From naked ladies, janitors, school chefs, and a girlfriend just about to piss herself, this had all the main aspects of school life covered. The Spectrum version took pretty much everything from the arcade version and quite honestly made it a better game to play. This one is so damn playable that you will quickly master it to get the 5 screens done time and time again. It's fast, cheeky, graphically as awesome as it could have been, with a banging Beatles soundtrack to boot. Crash Magazine, although found the game fairly easy to get through, gave it a crash smashable 93%.
If you like arcade games, then you should have a look at this one. With its humorous gameplay and excellent touches, Mikie really rises up from the mire of banal releases.
Number 3. Best shoot 'em up. Fantasy Software's 1983 shoot 'em up The Pyramid is special because creator Bob Hamilton was trying to do something different slap bang in the middle of everyone else making clones of the same arcade games. A ridiculous story arc aside, and something about finding numbers that will inevitably give you the meaning of life, you basically have to get from the top of the pyramid to the bottom. Each room has 2 doors at the bottom of the screen that you can only open by dropping a crystal on. Shoot a certain number of aliens and a crystal will drop from the top. At first it damages anything that touches it, but then turns yellow and is vulnerable. Once it turns blue, this is the point where you can collect it. Drop it over a door, and once the door goes purple, you only need 1 more crystal and you can move on to the progressively harder level below. Its simplicity is its strength, yet getting to the bottom, or if you really wanted to obtain all the room codes, requires patience and skill to outmaneuver the pesky aliens that get more and more annoying the deeper you go. Nothing here will blow you away graphically or gameplay wise, but it's also slickly packaged that at the end of the game you go straight for the restart button to get better into the pyramid. Reviews were all very positive, with Personal Computer Games giving it a solid 9, saying,
"It all adds up to a game you could spend a great deal of time playing. I thoroughly recommend it."
Number 4. Best 2-player game. The Spectrum version of Bruce Lee, made by Ocean and published by US Gold in 1985, is the best version of the game, and that's final. Bear in mind I said version and not port, as it's not really anything like the Atari original that the Commodore and Amstrad ports resemble. Instead, our Spectrum users got a different experience, a better one, with a faster, slicker Bruce Lee and his friends. This is the first Spectrum game I completed, which is basically another way of saying it's pretty frigging easy. What made it even easier, or harder depending on how friendly your friend was playing 2 players. You took turns playing the not very green Yamo character, which meant you could try and hinder Bruce Lee or help him by kicking the shit out of the little child ninja fella. It was just the perfect co-op game in the early days of the Specky, and was really a unique gaming experience compared to other 2-player games, where in those instances it was co-op or not, no choice given. It earned a crash smash at 91% in the May 1985 edition, and rightly so, with one reviewer remarking,
"There's something about this game that makes me come back to it for more. In fact, it's one of the few games I have ever bothered to complete, and the novelty still hasn't worn off."
Number 5. Best flying in space aircraft spaceship sci-fi game. Alright, it's just another shoot 'em up, but I had to shoehorn this game in somehow. I had to include another Joffa masterpiece with his wonderful space shooter Firefly. Like the Pyramid, its simplicity is its strength, although when you first play it, you may wonder what the hell is going on. I did a video all about it which goes into the gameplay in more depth, links here and below. But to quickly summarise, you must get your Firefly from the left hand side of the map to the finished square by creating stepping stones, the white tiles. The blue arrow tiles give you a 40% chance minigame to create more of the white stepping stones, but if you fail this chance game, the tiles for the whole map are jumbled up, which sometimes can be a good thing. The yellow planets block you and the black squares give you the opportunity to create a stepping stone by playing the main game. Again, this appears confusing at first, but is actually really straightforward. Each map has 4 enemies to destroy, seen flashing on the minimap below. To destroy these, you must shoot at them until they produce little egg flower type things. Pick 4 of these up and then you can hover over the enemy to play a chance game to blow it up. Do this 4 times and you complete the level and create another stepping stone. Got it? Good. The only annoying element of the game is sometimes to get from one part of the map to another, you need to use a transporter, which also flash on the minimap. This is another game of chance which is harder to master. Each time you fail, you damage your ship. It's all very fast, frenetic, and it's heaps of fun. It's properly addictive as you try to make your way across the board using your 3 lives. Sinclair User gave it a huge 10 out of 10, which kind of says it all, simply remarking,
"What a debut! More durable than any straightforward blaster, and more fun than just a strategy game."
Number 6. Best racing game, or best game with a car, or maybe a bike. Another early one that is shoehorned in a little bit because quite frankly it has to exist here. Coming out the same year as The Pyramid, Mervyn Escort's wonderfully brilliant Return of the Jedi-esque chase through the woods still plays fantastically today as it did over 40 years ago. The premise is simple: shoot the bad guys over increasingly harder night and day sectors to attain the highest score in the playground. Riding your bike through the rather simple forest? This game is 16K for goodness sakes. Never gets old, and although it's a game you may only spend 10 minutes on at a time, it's one you will come back to time and time again. A couple of fun facts: the Timex version was randomly called Cycle Path, and it was the first game reviewed in Crash Magazine, who gave it 92% and said,
"Return of the Jedi has nothing on this. The chase through the trees is breathtaking, quite literally."
Number 7. Best puzzle game. The Bobby Yazz show quite late on in the Specky's life was never actually released despite being reviewed in magazines, as the original publisher went out of business prior to release. A fantastic puzzle game built around a futuristic TV game show featuring the annoyingly smug Bobby and his assistant. It's a number of tile-based games where you must collect something, colour in something, or find the exit through a blind path something. There's loads of pickups that sometimes help and sometimes don't, and it all moves along at a terrific pace with stunning graphics and sound to boot. Great humour added with the TV show having commercial breaks and the odd remarks from Bobby when you do badly. It was eventually made available by Crash Magazine on a cover tape, who had previously reviewed it giving it 83%. They remarked,
"With all this mega frustration, it would be easy to think of the Bobby Yazz show as something of a failure, but somehow you've always got to have just one last go. It's so addictive."
Number 8. Best sports game. Daley Thompson's Decathlon is obviously the granddaddy, but I went for the Joffa Smith Quadruple with the more polished arcade conversion Hypersports. Lots of waggling, but also some excellent timing games, especially with the shooting and archery. The swimming looks as good here as anywhere, with the triple jump and vault both offering value to the good mix of events. I'm really not sure how this game could have been better on the Spectrum, honestly. Another sterling effort. If you have someone to waggle joysticks with you on your sofa, I guarantee a good time for everyone. Crash gave it a crash-smashing 92%, stating,
There might not be as many events as Daily Thompson, but it's definitely a more slick and polished program. If you want a true to the arcade game copy, then this is the one to get. Another winner from Imagine.
Number 9. Best Platformer. More of an arcade platformy shooter really, but really kind of needs to be involved. The parallax scrolling effect alone makes this a must addition to the Retro Spectro, but the fact it's a damn good game too makes it doubly special. I mean, it's pretty hard, like Joffa's port of Green Beret, but I find this more fun to return to. The object is fairly clear in killing everything by collecting weapons hidden in hamburgers or simply headbutting them using your murder button. Eventually Ingrid, I think that's her name, will appear, who's the witness you're trying to protect, and then it's simply a case of protecting her and not shooting her for long enough to move on. It's all done rather well and moves at a cracking pace. The on-ice feel of jumping can sometimes be annoying, but it's a quality game that was heaps better than the movie. If you want to heap some abuse my way, then please click on the link up here or down there and watch my crap movies brilliant games video. Crash Magazine also agreed somewhat by saying,
This, in my view, is the best smash of the issue. We'll have to wait for a while to see a game that betters this. Go out and buy it now.
Number 10. Best Cover Tape. Now, really this should be Pixie the Microdot 2 if you've seen my cover tapes video, but that one is keys only, so we're going for another Joffa game that was never released and apparently was written in around 5 days. Special FX's 1988 giveaway, Hyperactive. Possibly a demo turned full game for a cover tape, but in any case it turned out pretty decent in all honesty. In the same mould as Defender or Drop Zone, you must pick up the pods and return them to the base HQ over 4 varying levels with different enemies to annoy you. Incredibly playable and quickly addictive like all good arcade style games, which only has a lack of colour as its one drawback. For this to be only ever available on a cover tape though is pretty damn cool and definitely worthy of your time on the Retro Spectro or whatever you want to call it. Right, well that's my 10, but what do you reckon? You agree with any of those? Probably not. So let me know your 10 in the comments based on the criteria in the video, and maybe if we get enough comments together we can have a part 2 to this video with a, I don't know, Seb's Place community top 10 to put on your Spectro Retro, which I promise is the last time I'll call it that. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Who's a good boy? Yeah, who's a good boy? Oh. Hi. What are you doing? Hi.